everybody. It's your girl, Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama, by way of little old Glassboro, New Jersey. Unite right here on blacksedradio.com. And you know something? I've been missing you guys. I know I haven't put out a show in the last couple of weeks, but sometimes it just be like that, you know? And at the end of the day, if I ain't really got anything to say or any guests to say anything, I'm not just getting on here just to be getting on here. We want to make sure that we have quality programs, and Lord knows I got enough of them in the archives to keep y'all busy. So, as always, you know, we had just the best guest. And I happened to meet this sister. We're going to be talking to Lucretia Bullock today, and I met her at the cafe in conversation. And I think we communicated before, Lucretia. We had
Oh, you know what? Via the Facebook site.
Facebook.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So when I met her and got to talking about her relocation here to Panama, her story is unique and special, and I just wanted to share it with you all. So I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself, and so introducing Miss Lucretia Bullock. Hello, my love.
Hello, Miss Charlotte. I'm good today. How are you?
I'm absolutely wonderful. I am wonderful today. So glad that you and I are on the call. You're looking amazing. I know you
Thank
all moved
you.
into your new place and you're all
Yes,
happy
ma'am.
and
Yes,
giddy.
ma'am.
So, tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me.
Mhm.
Here to talk with you and your guests. I hail originally from Chicago.
Mm.
I'm a Chi-Town girl,
Yeah.
but by way of so many other cities kind of around the country and across the pond and all of that. So I've been
Mhm.
doing some moving around, but finally trying to settle it in here in Panama City. So I am excited to be here.
So you got here recently, and let's just go back a little bit. So when did you start thinking about relocation to an international space?
Many years ago,
Uh-huh.
many years ago, I used to
Mhm.
live in London a gazillion years ago, and my kids went to school there. I'm a former flight attendant, and so I had occasion to hit what, five of the seven continents around the globe. And
Oh,
so I love the idea of travel and the idea of living somewhere else besides what I am so used to and accustomed to became quite exciting to me. So here I am in Panama. I came in 2023 to take a look. I used to travel to Panama quite a bit. As a flight attendant, I had to have a second language way back when, and so mine was Spanish. And so I spent a lot of time in South and Central America to include Panama City, and it was always on my mind. And so when I thought it was time to consider really moving and relocating, I thought about Panama and I started looking at videos, yours included, Aisha's, and so many other YouTubers. So I latched on to you guys and started thinking, hey, maybe I can do this despite, some issues that I might have, physically or whatever. I thought I might be able to do this. And so in 2023, I came for a look-see for a couple of weeks and came back in 2024 and got my temporary visa. And in December, my permanent visa was ready, but I came back in January and here I am and now settled in my own place here.
wow. So let me just touch on something. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So you said you needed to learn to have a second language. Was
Yes.
that a formal requirement
It
of being a
was
flight
for Pan
attendant?
Am. I flew for Pan Am a gazillion years ago, and they've been long gone. And there are probably some people who have never heard of Pan Am before, some of the younger
Yes.
generation who have never heard of it before. But back then, because they were an international carrier and they were the premier U.S. international carrier, it was incumbent on everybody to have some sort of foreign language. And so I had studied Spanish in both high school and in college and was able to pass their tests when they came calling and flew for them for a number of years until they went under. So, yeah.
Wow, because I mean, I guess so. I guess it depends on the the main routes of the airline,
Yes.
because I believe that at Copa, I do believe that they have to know at least English and Spanish as well.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I just can remember being seated in the emergency row. And then
Mm-hmm.
they come by and they say, can you speak Spanish? And whoever I was with, they was like, just say yes. I'm like, I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. I just felt like I didn't know I had to speak Spanish to be able to sit in that row. And
Sure.
I said, God forbid this would be the time, that something happened. And I'd be like, uno, dos, tres,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, vamonos. You know, but I think that it's great to know a different language and it's actually end up serving you well.
Well, I'm having to relearn it because, of course, they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. And
Mhm.
certainly I had lost it. And, but prior to coming here, I had an over 450-day streak on Duolingo, relearning and reacclimating myself to the language. So I'm still learning in the learning phase all over again, but at least I have a sufficient base of knowledge with the language.
So you mentioned Duolingo. What do you think?
You know what? For me, it works. Everyone has their own specific learning style. And so, but for me, having a background in Spanish and having a good handle on pronunciation and vocabulary and those kinds of things. So for me, it's a very good option to reacclimate myself. For others who might be Nubians altogether, they might need to take some sort of other route, but it really just depends again on your learning style. And we had discussed that at that
Cafe
cafe,
conversation.
yeah,
It's a big
conversation.
thing. It is a big thing. And I think that it's good to discuss it because honestly, for people that don't know any Spanish, they are my she and heroes
Sure.
because I just don't know, and people might find this surprising, but I just don't know that I would be, comfortable taking like I don't know that I would be comfortable moving to a country that
Mm,
was not English speaking.
sure.
There's a lot of people that do speak English here, but it is not required. And it is not, something that you're going to get all the time.
Yeah.
And so the style and just how people deal with learning Spanish is a big deal. So what did you think of
Mhm.
Cafe and Conversation?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was wonderful. It was nice meeting you in person. So that was great. And all of your participants, everybody was eager to be there and eager to learn something and eager to meet people. And so the venue was a very nice, comfortable venue as well. So
Uh-huh.
it was well worth my time, and everybody else felt like it was worth theirs. And then I connected, when
Yeah.
you move to a different country, it's really important to be able to create community,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was one of the great opportunities to begin to do that,
Yeah,
and
I
I'm a
agree.
social person, and I was able to successfully connect with two of the women there. And we're still, hey, what are you doing? Where are you going? Let's get together
Yes,
kind of thing. So,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. So it's working out well. And that was a good opportunity for me.
Yeah. I find that with Cafe and Conversation, I want to say it's 3 years old or will be three in
Hmm.
like August.
Hmm.
And what we did is basically what we do, what we've been doing the whole time.
Sure.
And I think what is more than just, I mean, it's just as simple. For those that don't know, we have BEEP has Cafe and Conversation every fourth Sunday at the Granny
Hmm.
Venue restaurant, Le Hardin, I think it is.
Hmm.
And I think that for people just to be able to talk
Sure.
about what are they dealing with, where are they finding their success, in,
Yeah.
speaking Spanish here? What are they most proud about? What are the hardest things for them? Talking about the learning styles, like
Yeah.
how, people will criticize me for not being a better Spanish speaker because my husband is totally bilingual,
Mm.
and it's just like it's learning styles. It's how you are comfortable and successful at learning things. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing a lot better now, but I really love that everybody was so comfortable just
Sure.
to be able to share, and that
Sure.
everybody got something from it. And even though none of us are like experts, things, or you can hear when somebody
Mhm.
is saying something wrong, where you have enough knowledge to say, well, I know it to be said this way. And people come and they've maybe picked up Spanish from different regions,
Sure.
and so that makes a difference too. So, this wasn't supposed to be a plug for Cafe and Conversation. However, if you in the area or passing through, we're there every fourth Sunday at 11:30, and it is one of the programs I'm most proud about.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Super helpful.
So we got to talking, and one of the things that we do is introduce ourselves, and then that always opens up connections, because it'll be like somebody said, "What? You from Cali? I'm from Cali. What part?" And so after we get
Mm-hmm.
done the little, official part, then people can connect, and it's a good thing. So
Yeah.
when we started talking, you started talking about the fact that you moved with mobility issues.
Yes.
And that right there is a story. And so I would just love for you to talk to us about what has caused you to have mobility issues,
Sure.
and how you made that move to Panama, like you did.
Okay, sure. Absolutely. So, in 2020, I
Mhm.
found myself in just the strangest position. I ordinarily was a very active person. I would call myself a gym rat.
Mhm.
Once upon a time. And so I was always doing something, working, moving, walking all over Chicagoland and, just doing all of the things, traveling and everything, and totally unencumbered by anything physically, handicapping at all. And so in 2020, I had purchased a home like in March, and some months went by. I'm going along, I'm decorating, I'm doing all of the things. And then by June, July, I started all of a sudden stumbling. And I was like, oh, I'm really becoming clumsy in my older age. And so that stumbling continued, and it turned into, okay, now I'm starting to fall. At first I thought I was tripping over, what, I don't know, but tripping over air. I didn't know what was going on. And so it went from the stumbling to then falling. And I was like, what is going on? So coming from Chicago and living also in Indiana, I started pursuing medical treatment. I thought I'd start with maybe acupuncture because I was told that that might be helpful. And then I did massages and chiropractic. I was seeing a chiropractor and doing all of the things. And when none of that was helpful to me, I decided to seek medical attention. And so I started going to the different hospitals all throughout Chicagoland and then in Indiana, and no one could tell me anything. They were coming up with all manner of things that might be
Swollen or anything?
possible. Well, my ankles started to swell, my feet started to swell, and I didn't know what that was from because, I was generally a healthy person without any particular medical issues at the time. And so when no one could tell me what was going on, I thought, okay, I have a research background. I used to be a project manager for the National Medical Association, for the research arm of the National Medical Association. And so in that role, I would organize summits and symposiums in collaboration with different universities and hospitals around the country. And so as a researcher, I thought, okay, here's an issue for myself that I need to research. So I started doing that. I discovered in that research that the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, had a program that it was a study actually, and they were studying all manner of different illnesses. And so that I stumbled upon something that sounded like it may have related to me. And so I wrote them a letter detailing from A to Z what was going on with my body and the changes, where I had started from relative to where I was at this point. And so I sent them that letter. Fortunately, I also knew someone who worked at the Mayo Clinic who was able to say, hey, this person's going to be sending you a letter to someone in particular, a particular physician. Someone I know is going to be sending you a letter. When you receive it, would you please take a look at it and see if there's anything, that can be done? And, as as karma, the universe would have it, he had me come to the Mayo Clinic and discussed everything that I had written about and said, yeah, we would like to include you in this study that we've got going on. And so first day, so I came to Minnesota and they ran a series of tests. And the first day that I was there, they were able to put a name to what was a mystery to me up to that point. And the name of that is an acronym for poems. The acronym is POEMS, and the P stands for polyneuropathy, which means it is something that attacks the nerves in your body. In my case, it attacked my feet and my legs, which was causing me to first trip because my toes weren't doing what they were needing to do. Everybody, we don't know how important those little piggies are until we don't have the use of them anymore. And so that started, I couldn't curl my toes anymore. So I had this thing called drop foot as a result. So that was what was causing me to trip and start to fall. So
Your,
P for the
your foot would just fall.
exactly. So when you walk and you can't do this, and you can also do this, you have that action where your ankle and your foot go back and forth, then you fall. And so that was an aspect of the polyneuropathy, which is what the P in poems is for. And then the O is for organomegaly, which means it also, whatever it is, attacks your nerves. I'm sorry, attacks your organs. And so in finding out and doing more tests, I discovered that it, yes, indeed had attacked my organs. Apparently, I had had a massive heart attack. I was told it was the widowmaker. And I had no idea that I had it. And, the body is an amazing thing. It is equipped with all manner of resources that can, help you come out of things. And so my body in answer to that organomegaly that attacked my heart, my body created these collateral vessels that fed the arteries. And so even though I had had this massive heart attack, because my body was able to create these collateral vessels that fed my arteries, it just kept pumping as if it was A-okay. And so nothing needed to be done about this massive heart attack that I had. No stents, no, nothing, no, nothing. A little
You,
bit of
you don't
medication, that was it.
you don't remember being in pain or anything.
You know what? I think when I think back, I think I was visiting my sister in Dallas and I feel like I had some really bad chest pain, but
Mhm.
I had already been told that it was likely just kind of indigestion or something like
Mhm.
that. And so I assumed that I'm having a really bad bout of indigestion.
Wow.
So that's the only time that I could think of that I might have been having a heart attack. And thankfully, I didn't go to the hospital or anything like that. I just kind of,
Thankfully, it
you just
didn't
deal
kill
with
you.
this. Yeah, thankfully it did not.
Wow. Wow.
So, all right. So to recap this the poem thing, POEMS. So the P is polyneuropathy, the O is for organomegaly, the E is for endocrinopathy, which means, for me, it manifested itself in creating diabetes, which I had never had before. So this was just a scourge, really, a scourge on my otherwise healthy, body. So I did not have diabetes before, but they said that I had it now, and they believed that because I didn't have it before, it was a result of this disorder, and they call it a disorder rather than a disease.
Okay.
So this endocrinopathy created this diabetes, which they told me once that I, did the methods that they were requiring, I would no longer have that. And I'll explain that a little later. So M is for monoclonal antibodies. And so that's a bit more difficult for me to explain, but that was a part of it. And then M is for, let's see, the M is for the monoclonal antibodies. And then the S is for skin, issues. So, my skin got really dark. I was really dark, much darker than I ordinarily am. And then my feet, the bottom of my feet and the insides of my hands were just black. And so something was going on. A lot of things were going on with me. And they were able to, fortunately, the Mayo Clinic again had this study. They were able to give what I was going through, all of the things that I was going through, a name. And then they were able to have a treatment to deal with it. And my treatment then was a form of chemotherapy that I had to have, very high dosages, two dosages of chemotherapy, and as well a stem cell transplant. And so they had said once I did these things, especially the stem cell transplant, then those things that I did not have before would go away, like the diabetes. So I had the stem cell transplant. I no longer have diabetes.
Praise God.
Yeah, and I didn't have to do anything in particular not to have it. I didn't necessarily have to change my diet or anything like that because it did not exist in my body prior to this disorder.
Order bought it on.
Yes, exactly. Now, and the disorder itself is very rare. They really have not been able to pinpoint what causes it, but it often happens in people in their 50s, which I was at the time, and sometimes, younger people, but it's a very rare and
It's
still
rare.
kind of, yeah, and they're still, still studying it, trying to figure out, all of the things that they can determine from it.
So did you find like when you think back, did you find like when you were like sitting on the hopper that your feet would go numb?
Yes, yes. I had very numb feet. My hands were numb and tingly. My feet tingled. They hurt. They tingled so much they burned and they hurt. My fingers, my hands, my fingers were jittery. I was constantly, shaking my hands. It was hard to hold something in my hand. When I tried to eat with a fork, the fork would shake. And so I would spill food on myself. Yeah, it had a big impact.
You're telling the story in hindsight now, but I just can imagine what all of this was like for you. I don't think I can imagine, especially coming from a healthy individual. Because first of all, this was in the height of COVID, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't know whether it had something to do with COVID. Perhaps I had had COVID and then this was a byproduct of that. I was not sure, wasn't certain. And I'm not certain that they haven't even ruled that out, because there was so much going on. I'm sorry if I've moved this again.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, there's so much going on and it is rare and they have not been able to necessarily pinpoint for a large swath of the population that does have it. They're still studying it. And so it is, a lot of questions remain.
Is it something that's more prevalent by race?
No, absolutely not. It really, anybody can get it, male, female, of any racial background. Any age group, apparently, more older people than younger people. But, it attacks other age groups as well.
So you moved in, I think you said March. And then by June or July, you started recognizing the tripping and then the
Yeah.
stumbling. And you were at Mayo Clinic by August?
No, actually, I wrote to them that year. This was in 2020. And
Right.
in 2021, they reached out to me and said, hey, we would like to talk with you. We would like for you to come and we would like to run some tests and we'd like to talk to you. So that was, I think, February of 2021 when I went to the Mayo Clinic for the first time, and then they admitted me to the study at that time. And so it was a couple of years. It was a 2-year process of, medications, the chemotherapy, the stem cell transplant, the physical therapy. So a lot of therapy because literally it did not stop at just making me trip and fall and giving me tremors, in my hands and my feet tingling and all of those things. I literally could not move myself from one position to the next. I could not lift, over time, I could not lift my foot up and down to step on a step. I remember trying to get into the house from the car. So my ex-husband at the time was helping me with this. Thankfully, I had a big support system, friends and
I
yes,
was going to
and
ask
all
that.
of those things. So a very big support system. And so I remember him taking me to a doctor's appointment. He had to actually get me out of the house and move my legs down the steps and all of those things. And then kind of lift me up into the car. And then when I came back, I remember, asking him if he could lift my leg onto the step because I literally could not lift my foot or my leg onto 2 steps just to get inside the house again. So it was very traumatic because I lost the ability to utilize my body in all the ways that I was accustomed to using it. I could not lift my feet. I couldn't get myself onto anything. I couldn't remove myself from one chair to the next. I couldn't get into the tub or the shower by myself. I needed attention for all of the things.
Your new house have steps?
Pardon?
Your new house had steps inside?
It had, yes, I had lots of steps, but fortunately for me, I also have a first floor bedroom and a full bathroom on the first floor.
Wow,
And so
that's
I
good.
didn't have to climb the steps to my master anymore. So that, was convenient.
So, okay, so now I'm being nosy now. So, okay, so
Uh-huh.
the husband, he was your ex at the time?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
so sweet. It's
Yeah,
so sweet.
yeah,
Listen, I don't
yeah.
know. I got a current husband. I don't know.
Well, I also had a
So,
friend from high school too who was helping me as
um,
well. So I had lots of support, lots of support.
okay. So by the time you went to, this is so interesting. So by the time you went to Mayo and you did all of that, what were your signs at that point? Because by now you're looking at almost a year of
Mm-hmm.
the beginnings. Had you turned dark already during that time? And
Yes,
oh wow. So by then, so by the time you went there, it had taken over to the point where you were not able to move.
absolutely. Absolutely. By the time I got to the Mayo Clinic, I literally just had to be lifted and carried from one place to the next. I remember them having a bus with steps and not, not wheelchair accessible. I was literally in a wheelchair at this time. And so they had this bus that was not particularly wheelchair accessible. And so, as I mentioned, my friend from high school had to literally pick me up. And thankfully, he was a big enough guy to pick me up.
Wow.
And so he had to literally pick me up and put me into a seat on the bus and literally lift me up and take me out, down the stairs and back into my wheelchair and all of those things. So I was in a state, truly. I really could not do much of anything for myself at that time. My hands still worked, my feet did not, and my legs did not. My legs felt like they were about 100 pounds apiece.
Did they feel like pins and needles, or they didn't have no
Yes,
feeling at all?
pins and needles
Pins
in
and
my
needles.
feet, my legs. It was very painful, hard to sleep at night. And yeah, so this went on for a good 2.5 years.
The N, or what is it? The
Neuropathy,
probably the
polyneuropathy.
P part
Hmm.
is familiar to me. I've known people, to have that, and I know one sister actually, she had moved here, and she started with her feet was numb,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah.
she was diagnosed as neuropathy,
Hmm.
and but it just got progressively worse, and
Mm,
she ended up having to go back home. She,
mm.
she went back home. But I mean, we're talking about the process of how all of this happened, and all I'm thinking is that in addition to all of these physical things that are going wrong, totally unexpected, healthy woman, and then to go from that, buying a new house and expecting to do whatever you're going to do, to not being able to care for yourself. You
Sure.
probably weren't able to care for yourself. Not being able to care for yourself in the height of COVID, where we didn't know if the world was ever going to open up again, or if you would be able to see a doctor,
Absolutely.
and everything
Absolutely.
like that. What was it like for you, mentally, emotionally?
Hmm. Yeah, it was, as I said, it was a time, it was very difficult. Not being able to navigate just everyday life like I was accustomed to, and being very independent, living alone, in my
Mhm.
home, and then having to have someone to come in and literally live with me. And that took a while too, because I managed, I was able to, navigate in a wheelchair and all of those things. But one day I remember falling, kind of sliding, because with all of these things going on with my feet, they literally had no traction. As I mentioned, couldn't curl my toes or anything like that. So I didn't have any traction in my feet, nor could I feel much of anything. And I was home alone one day and slid out of the bed because I was trying to get out and get into the wheelchair and, navigate around the house. And I literally slid out. It was in the evening, slid out of my bed onto the floor, and I did not have enough steam in my body to get me off of the floor and back onto the bed. And so I had to call a friend. I mentioned this friend from high school who helped me out, and it was probably 10 o'clock at night. And I called and I said, you know what, can you please come and help me, because I am on the floor and I cannot get myself back onto the bed or anywhere else. I just did not have that strength in my legs, my feet, my arms to pull myself up. And so I sat on that floor, laid on that floor for a couple of hours before he could get there to get me off of the floor. So it was quite a harrying situation on more than one occasion. And so that precipitated needing someone to come and live with me. And so that's what he did for a while. He had to live with me because that was pretty scary, having fallen on the floor. That commercial, I've fallen and I can't get up, was a literal
Yes.
thing for me.
So you needed the life alert, and then
Yeah.
also like the you could have fallen and hit your head or
Yes.
something like that. Oh my
Yes.
goodness, I had no idea that
Oh,
it
yeah.
was this deep. So
Yeah.
okay, I'm just building it up, because at the end of the day, for me, it's like, to God be the glory. You are in Panama. You
Yes.
are in Panama, So
Yeah.
after you started going to Mayo, they put a
Mhm.
name to this thing, and you
Yeah.
started to, accept, okay, this is what I do. What were your chances? What did they tell you were your chances of recovery? I know they said that you could probably overcome the diabetes thing, and
Yeah.
you hadn't any symptoms of
No,
diabetes
no symptoms that I was aware of. I didn't know I didn't know how diabetes really presented because I did not have it. And
and
so
frothy
I had
urine.
no idea.
Frothy, I know that I've heard like frothy urine is one of them.
Yeah, yeah,
Frothy
I hadn't
urine.
noticed.
Nah, okay.
Yeah, hadn't noticed
Okay.
any of that. So once they took a look at me, they said there is really a 50-50 chance, of you getting better, of you ever walking again. Some people walk again, some people don't. Some people, get the ability to use their hands and all of those things normally. Some people don't. So we really don't know. So took a series of medications, for a year. I took these medications. I did as much therapy as my body would allow me to do. And they said, we're hoping for the best. We'll see. We'll just have to see because we don't know from one person to the next. One person's experiences are another, person's wishes. Some people can recover. Um, the number, because the study was relatively new, they really did not have, a quotient, really. This is the number of people who go on to, assume their regular, ordinary lives without any repercussions. This is the number of people, so it was a new study. But every step of the way, they kept telling me, you're doing great. You're doing great. We're really surprised at your results. I was just really determined. Again, having led a really active life, having been able to travel and do all of the things and, visit people, my children, in college and, graduating and all of these things. I just thought I have to continue to be able to do that no matter what. So I hear what they're telling me that I've got a shot and it's 50-50, but I want to make that a bigger chance than the 50-50.
But
I want my life back.
it's
Exactly. I want my life back or, the biggest semblance of it that I could possibly get. So I did all the things, I did the therapy and then when I got home, I did more therapy just by myself. I played with my feet, my hands, all of the things. And then I just kept testing myself, little by little. I was in my wheelchair cleaning my house and mopping my floors and doing all the things because I didn't want to just become sedentary and just say, hey, I'm in a wheelchair. So now I'm limited as to what I could do. So I started doing that in my wheelchair, cleaning up my house and washing the dishes and cooking and all of those things. And then one day I said, you know what? I'm going to try to get in the shower by myself. And so I managed. I figured it out. It was scary, but I figured it out. So I got in the shower and then it progressed and it progressed. And then one day I said, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to trim my hedges. Yes, I'm going to be in the wheelchair, but I'm going to navigate. I'm going to get out into the garage. I'm going to roll. I'm going to be able to reach my utilities and I'm going to be able to, chop on my hedges and things like that while sitting in my wheelchair. And I just kept testing myself. Let me see what else I can do. So I did that. Let me see what the next step is. Let's see. And so finally, I was able to, with all the therapy and all of the ways that I was pushing myself, I was able to walk. I have some video of me being strapped up in all of these bands and things like that, trying to keep me on my feet so that I could try to walk. And so to have gone from that to now I am walking, I went to orthotics from that kind of machine to, doing all of the other therapies. And then to orthotics. I got some custom orthotics made just for me that fit my feet so that I could, put these in shoes and allow myself to stand up, with a walker first.
orthotics. Because when you said that, I was
Orthotics.
thinking that you with my, I mean, my knowledge is very limited. So when you said that, I was thinking that perhaps you had lost the bottom half of your legs. That's not
No, so
orthotics.
after no, so some people may have lost that ability. With me, I didn't have the strength in my legs and things like that.
Yes.
But I went to an orthopedic specialist and had these orthotics created. So what that was for me was a piece that fit inside of my shoe that was built specifically for my arch, for the arches of my feet, and that could go in shoes. And then it was a hard, I want to say plastic, but I'm sure it was more technical than plastic piece that went all the way, that connected to that foot portion. And then it had metal attached to it. And then there was that plastic again. I'm sure there's a more technical name than that, but that piece that went all the way up to my knee and strapped around my legs that helped to allow me to be able to stand along with like a walker. And so then I went from the walker to a cane, and from the cane to now I don't necessarily need a cane if I'm walking around the house or whatever. And sometimes I forget my cane. I'll leave the house and I'll forget the cane, and I can navigate, I can manage. But yeah, so the orthotics, and then one of my custom orthotics broke after being serviced time and time and time again. They said, okay, you're gonna have to start all over. And I was like, I'm not gonna start all over. So then I got a pair of just over-the-counter orthotics that were less strong than the ones I had, because I thought, well, maybe this is just a sign that I need to not be so
So
dependent,
dependent.
yeah, on these orthotics. So let me use these other things that kind of just strap around my legs and don't give me nearly the support that the other ones did. And so that was a learning curve as well, trying to go from what I was accustomed to and knew that I had a lot of support to now something that was not nearly as sturdy. And so then I had to learn how to walk in those things. And so I still use those today when I navigate the streets of Panama, because we know those can be kind of treacherous. Some of them anyway, depending on where you are. So I wear them around the streets of Panama. I have gone from the wheelchair to the walker, from the walker to the cane.
Okay.
And now I still use the cane in Panama, but I
Mhm.
don't necessarily need it. So I can walk around the house. My toes still don't curl like they should, but they do just ever so slightly, because all the therapy and me, working with them and everything, I can get them to kind of move a little bit to allow me to stand up on my own 2 feet, because again, that was part of it. I hadn't mentioned it earlier, but that was part of it. So I just could not stand up on my own at all. And so those orthotics helped me to be able to do that, those initial custom orthotics. And then the lesser version of the orthotics that helped. And now I'm to the point where I can stand on my own. I can walk on my own without the benefit of the cane, but just outdoors for good measure, because I have had some falls. So I use I have a walker now that has a seat attached to it. So if I get tired, I can,
So,
pull it out and sit down on the seat and take a rest. I haven't had to do that so much yet, but I have it just in case.
so like, do you remember the first time you were able to walk?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
It was a very, very exciting event. And I don't have it recorded, unfortunately. So often I was kind of by myself or not,
Yeah.
people weren't thinking, let me record this, because we didn't know what was going to happen. And I just remember being so excited for every little accomplishment that I made. It was a win. And so I just kept saying, okay, this is a win. Let me go for my next win. What's going to be my next win after that? And so, so here I am looking quite normal and navigating again the streets of Panama. with my orthotics and with my cane, but I, can go in and out of the house without it. Yesterday, I went down to the lobby without my cane and just my orthotics. Oh, and then I put on a regular pair of sandals that don't accommodate my orthotics, and I went to the pool. Which I also discovered during one of my visits when I was here in Panama. Went down to the pool and discovered that despite the fact that I was having difficulties with my legs, I could swim.
Wow.
Yeah.
Buoyancy.
Yes, yes, it's really good
Wow.
for me.
And
So
you can
yeah,
move the legs. You can still,
exactly.
wow.
I can move my legs and I can swim because my guy, he was insistent that the pool was a good, option for me to get some exercise. And so I hemmed and hawed about it, but I finally did it, and he forced me to get in the pool, and made it happen. And I just made this huge discovery. I was like, I didn't think I could. I thought, yeah, I could get in the pool, I could move my legs in the pool, but I did not think I would be able to swim in the pool, and I actually did. So that was super exciting.
That is. So now I didn't ask, but so you do have children.
I do. I have two children. My son is 31 and he lives in Florida. He is currently back in school getting another degree in cybersecurity. And then I have a daughter who is 24. My son's going to be graduating in December. And then my daughter is getting her master's from University of Southern California and going to her graduation in May.
So when this happened back in 20s, your daughter had already left for college
Yes,
in
yep, she went
2020.
away.
Okay, so how did the kids take it?
It was hard. It was hard for them. And, they gave me as much support as they could. I didn't want anybody to upset their own lives, to come and take care of mom, especially because I did have a bit of a support system. The people that I mentioned, along with girlfriends and everything, people went to the grocery store for me. People, called me up and said, what do you need? Do you need anything? I had good neighbors. My next door neighbor would plow my snow for me, in the winter and do all of the things, So I had good neighborhood support, good friend support from, friends that I've had for years and new friends that I've had from the neighborhood. So yeah, it was helpful and didn't have to put too much pressure on my kids, thankfully.
That is wonderful. So how did you go from all of that to Panama? And let me just say this for people that don't know. I've never seen anyone with a scooter in
Mm,
Panama. I haven't. If
mm-hmm,
I did, I didn't notice it.
sure.
Because now as we get more and more clients and a lot of them are older. See, if you are not using handicap accessible things, you don't notice if they're there or not.
Absolutely.
You don't notice if they're there or not, but I've been made more aware of things. Aisha, you talked about Aisha, Abroadability.
Mm-hmm,
She's one of my favorites.
mm-hmm.
I love that she, shares her experience, moving around in different places with her mobility issues.
Yes,
But the thing is, if you don't have those issues, you don't necessarily think of those things.
absolutely.
So how have you found Panama overall to be as far as you're getting around? That's one thing. And the other thing I want to know is how and what was it that made you make that decision to just make that leap?
Sure, sure. So, what made me decide to make the leap is the thing these days in particular that makes many people decide to make the leap.
Okay.
The things that are happening in the US are very contrary to what we are accustomed to, and desire. And so it becomes, the more that I think about it, the more I think that This is not the life that I would like to live. I remember thinking before, I had kids that I did not necessarily want to bring kids into the world that existed way back then. Well, it's a whole different beast right about now. And I just decided if, thank God I have the wherewithal and the choice, the ability to be able to decide just to pick up and move somewhere that is not the US of A. And so after many visits to Panama, I decided that Panama would be workable for me despite my condition. And before bringing the scooter, because I had visited Panama 2 other times in this very condition without the benefit of the scooter,
Right.
I decided, let me just look around. So while I was here those times, I looked at the sidewalks, the holes, all of the things that are not infrastructurally sound,
Mhm.
that we take for granted in the
Yep.
US and many other places. We take that, the ability to be in a wheelchair or a walker or whatever it is, and to still have access to all of the things that we want to access. While Panama is a wonderful city with wonderful people, they are limited by offering that ability to, and they care about their elderly people. We know this by way of the pensionado and the jubilado,
See.
visas. So they are a caring population, but there was something happened, I guess, with the architects who were building the city, the engineers, and all of those things, that they failed to recognize that there were people with disabilities or, impediments, impairments that would not allow them to access all of the city as they should be able to do.
Just think about it. Like, when did, I think it's the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, when
Mm-hmm.
did that actually go into place in the US? It's
Right,
probably
right.
what,
It's
it's
relatively
probably
recent.
maybe 30 years,
Mm-hmm. Right,
and it's
right.
progressively, think about it, it's progressively gotten better.
Yes.
They have, some places were grandfathered in,
Mm-hmm.
just like with asbestosis. If your house was back before the 70s or something, there were certain things
Yes.
that was like, okay, you just go ahead and keep that. But they progressively gotten better. So at least I can say I've been coming to Panama for 20 plus years.
Mm.
And it is the newer construction.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that you kind of see more,
Sure.
more friendly things in a way. Because again, like I was saying, I learn things from people, our clients, and people that come on the tour. But we had a sister, bless her heart, Miss Emma, with us on the last tour, and Miss Emma needed she needed support in the restroom.
Sure.
Okay, because she couldn't get down that low.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had her all taken care of at the hotel. Torres de Alba is very, very mindful
Yeah.
of people with mobility issues. And
Yeah.
for the rooms that aren't equipped, when you ask, they'll give you, apparatus that is
Sure.
movable, right? But even the newer places that we went to, mostly you'll have a ramp. So
Yeah.
they are getting a little bit better with that. Mostly you'll have a ramp, but almost every single place that we went to was not handicap accessible for her to use
Yeah.
the restroom.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
my mind, I'm always thinking the cul-de-sac, because that's the big bathroom at the end. That's what I call it, the
Mm-hmm.
cul-de-sac. And I
Mm-hmm.
know it's big, and I figure it's big so that a wheelchair can
Sure.
get in there. But I never noticed, paid any attention to
Yeah.
having the support to get up or down.
Yeah, it would be wonderful if all of those things were in place, but primarily they are not. There
Mhm,
are, however, areas within the city that are more accommodating than others.
mhm,
And for someone with a disability, I would not say I would not suggest that they rule Panama out, because there are things that can be done and
mhm.
places that you can go that will accommodate, such disabilities. My building in particular I was not even thinking about the scooter when I selected the apartment that I selected. I saw many, and many of them had easy ingress and egress inside and outside of the buildings and things like that. But the one I chose did not. And I just was not considering my scooter when I chose it. So it has stairs, about 6 stairs in order to enter the building. And so I have to walk up those stairs. But one day I got my scooter. When I got the scooter, it was not with me. I didn't bring it at the time that I moved in, but then I had to go back and get it. And I decided I was going to ride my scooter from El Cangrejo to my area where I live now, which is maybe 2 miles away or so, by scooter, not having to navigate the one-way streets and all of those things that the cars have to do. So it's about 2 miles away. So I rode my scooter here to the building, and only to discover that all there were steps. They had no ramp in
Wow.
order for me to get into the front of the building. And so I said to the guys, because they said it's too heavy to lift, nobody wanted to lift it. And I said, I tell you what, I'll dismantle it, because it dismantles into maybe 3 pieces. The handlebars, so to speak, they fold down onto the base of the scooter that has the wheels. The seat pulls straight up and comes off, and the basket comes off. So once you're just down to the bare bones of the thing, the base of the scooter with the handlebars, then it's liftable, because I've lifted it myself and put it in the back seat of my car when I was in the US, and then put everything in the car, and then took it all out and put it back together again in a couple of minutes.
How heavy is the scooter?
Pardon?
How heavy is it?
Um, it is heavy all put together, but as I said, in just the base, it could be maybe 20 pounds, maybe 20 pounds,
Reasonable.
maybe a little bit more, but maybe I'm just stronger.
Well,
20,
you
30
are
pounds
strong.
maybe.
We know that.
Yeah, so I got to the building and could not get into the building. So like I said, I dismantled it. They were able to just pick it up, in the pieces, and then I put it back together again and was able to go up the elevator and make it to my unit and everything. But when I got ready to leave the next time, I was aware that there's a parking lot. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna ride the scooter and go running errands, go to the grocery store, whatever. And so they told me where the parking lot was, and I get to the very end where you have to get out of the parking lot. And boy, was there a slope, a very, very tall slope. There's no problem for a vehicle to get out of, but
Right.
for me in the scooter, and I'd already had an accident on my scooter just trying to get into a bank, because once again, we talked about the accessibility of handicapped people and scooters and all of those things. So I'm going off topic and I'm moving all over the place, but to tell you the story about the bank, there was another tall ramp, and I thought that I could manage it, and I was wrong. And I don't know if you can see. I was wrong. So that's the consequences. So therefore,
Did you step over?
I did. I did. It took me right back down. I was probably halfway up the slope, and it was like, oh no, you can't go any further. And maybe I was going too fast. It was probably like operator error. I should have looked around and found a better option to get up that slope or to get into the bank, but I didn't. I was in a hurry and I tried it, and much to my dismay.
Did you were people helpful?
So helpful. Once again, getting back to Panama and its people. My gosh, all I know was I was laying on the ground in the middle of the street, by the way. Thankfully, no cars were coming right then. In the middle of the street, and more people than I knew were on the street were right there on top of me at the ready to make sure that I was okay. picking some guy tried to pick me up. I'm too big for this. It took two.
You-
Yeah, so one had me by one arm, the other had me by the other arm. There were women picking up because I had gone to the store and picked up a few things. There were women in the street picking up everything that had fallen out of the basket. Some guy got out of his car and they were just, I just felt so cared for. And I thought, I don't think this would have happened so swell like this in the US. I don't know. I don't want to put my country down, but my gosh, the Panamanian people just showed up and showed out for me that day.
So, unfortunately, nowadays people will pick up their phone
Yes,
and
and start
record your tail
recording.
before they try to help
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. This was not the case. They were just, I was like, where did all these people come from? Because, all I could see when I rolled up was just a quiet street, a sleepy little quiet street. And before I knew it, there were at least 10 people out there picking my scooter up, picking my things up, dusting me off, asking me in Spanish if I was okay. And someone said, what about your head? Because I had hit my head, but thankfully my elbow took the brunt of the fall.
Wow, you have such a great attitude.
Oh my gosh, what can you do? What can you do?
Yeah.
You just have to
So,
pick
are you
yourself
going to
up.
renew your lease?
Well, it is a new lease and I have it for a year. And
Mm-hmm.
I am going to figure this thing out. I'm giving myself
Yes.
a year to figure it out and see how well Panama works for me.
Wow, what a story. Look, what a ride.
Yeah,
What a
what a ride.
ride
Oh,
in
what
your
a ride. So,
scooter.
yeah, so I was going to tell you too, when I was leaving the building, it had an even taller slope. And so I learned my lesson. So it was probably a good thing that that was my fall out there at the bank, because when I got to that taller slope, I understood that that was not happening. And
Yes.
so I was able to just walk it up, pushing a little
Wow.
bit, letting it roll a little bit, me walking a little, letting it roll a little. And I was able to get up the slope. And when I came back, same thing. I knew to walk it down. Don't even try it, sis. So I just kind of walked it down and made my way.
You're doing it. You're doing it. And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
62.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you're a year older than I am. And let us not forget, for those who are not here in Panama, that it is hot as hell.
It is so
So when
hot.
you talk about pushing a scooter up the hill,
Yes. Yeah,
wow.
yeah. It is it can be very hot here in Panama. And forget about just pushing the scooter. Just think about the heat and then the hot flashes to boot.
So I mean, I could talk to you forever. This is such an amazing story. But I do have to go. But I know
Sure.
that so many people are inspired, by your story because I mean, you went through a lot. And in addition to, overcoming all of the physical challenges, to be able to have the mind that says, I'm going to need better than a 50-50 chance, baby.
Yeah,
We're going to
yeah.
have to do something with that because I'm about to, I need to beat this. I mean,
Hmm.
it's amazing. And then, you know, so many people, this may have defeated them. And then you look up and my goodness, you have made an international move and it is significant. And I just want you to know that you are forever my shero, baby.
Oh,
I
thank
am
you.
serious. I am so proud of you. And I'm so happy for you to have such a desire to live your life. It's so
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely. We get one of them. We get one go round. As far as we know, we get one go round and just got to make good. Just got to make good and got to test the waters and see where we can go, how high, how far, how fast. And that's what I'm doing. Just seeing, what do I have to lose? What do I
Wow.
have to lose? And
There,
everything gain.
exactly. And there are so many people who, I mean, have encountered less and just said, I can't do it. I'm thinking of someone in particular, and, um, she had a stroke.
Mm,
and she beat the odds. She did.
mm.
And but when I say to her, okay, so you get into therapy, what are you doing at home? I don't have this or I don't have that. And I'm just like, that's just not a winning attitude. And when you're fighting, like my father died of cancer. And
Mm.
we weren't really like, super close or anything like that. He was quite the character. But he said to me, I went to see him, and he said he was talking about the food that he needed to eat and everything. And he was like, he said, fighting this cancer is an MF. Oh, and I've just never forgot that. Hadn't really heard anybody put it that way.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
somehow we forget the personal turmoil of illness and
yeah,
that it takes
yeah.
on your body and your mind. So, congratulations to you.
Thank
We will
you.
continue to follow your story. Welcome to Panama.
Thank
Looking forward
you.
to seeing you at the events, and
Absolutely.
and you have definitely inspired me, and I'm sure many others today. You should tell your story every chance you can.
Well, thank you. And to everybody out there who are facing whatever kind of challenge it is, my motto is to eat or be eaten. And so that's what I leave everybody with, eat or be eaten.
That's the truth. That is the truth. Even the stuff that we're going through in the US, Lucretia, I say,
Absolutely.
listen, I just decided it's either going to kill us or make
Yeah,
us stronger.
absolutely.
That's it. That we only
That's,
got two choices. It's either going to kill us or it's going to make us stronger. And
that's
I'm
exactly
betting
right.
on that. I'm betting on that up to get bit fixing them
Yes,
odds, baby. Yeah,
yes,
it's a
yes.
50-50, but we finna take that off.
That's
So thank
right.
you so much. I appreciate your time.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for having me and for your time as well. I appreciate being able to impact whomever I might be
Mhm.
able to impact via my story.
Amen. You definitely impact me. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Have a good day.
You too. That was just an amazing conversation. Honestly, I could have went on and on. And I told her, I said, we need to talk more about the stem cell, like the stem cell treatments, like, what might have looked like for somebody that didn't have insurance or wasn't able to get into a study. Just an amazing conversation. I mean, I am inspired. I really am. I don't know who follows me really closely, but I've been doing these like challenging walks, like my walk challenge where I do like a 5-day streak. And I'm on my third week doing that now, and I just feel so much better. But I mean, for her to make this move out here to Panama, in knowing that she had some mobility issues and all of the things that she had to get over to get here, I'm like, who we talking to out there? Somebody out there needed to hear that today. And, you know, at least check a thing out. Don't count yourself out. And somebody gives you a 50-50, tell them you finna make that better. I just think, oh my God, her story was just so amazing. But listen here. Um, Stay in touch. I'd like to give a shout out to my main man, Dow Spears, Elite Conversation Podcast Media. Of course, I want to give a shout out to Riley and Devin at Black Set Radio for giving us the opportunity to put our voices in the world. Um, you can find us everywhere at Black Expats in Panama. Our trip to Ghana, we had our third info session just last night, and it was amazing. So, as you know, we have a group going in October and in November. In November, we actually have 4 spaces left. If anybody wants to hop on that November 2025 trip, to Ghana. Also, we are really, really close, y'all. I think that our first cultural relocation tour to Medellin is going to be in August. And hopefully we should be able to release some solid date for you by next week. So it's been a process, but it's been a good process. And I'm very excited with the itinerary and all the things that we are about to bring you. So I'm really excited about that. Just a whole lot going on. What else? We got Belize coming up, 2026. I mean, not Belize, Brazil. We're going to Brazil and we're going to Bahia, Salvador. So we'll have like an in-flight, a country in-flight in the country, to go there. Just a lot of stuff. Catch us at Welcome Wednesday right now. Welcome Wednesday is going to be at Emotions Restaurant and Bar. That's at the Hilton in Balboa. We'd like to thank Daiquiri 23 for hosting us for the last 7 months. We will be spreading the love around and looking at different places to support. And so right now it will be Emotions, Cafe and Conversation every fourth Sunday at Grand Ivenia and El Cangrejo. Very, very important. BEIP B2B Network. That's the second Wednesday of every month. Right now, it's held at Global Hotel at the 54 East Restaurant. It's an amazing network and group. And as I was saying on another video, it's been a little bit sluggish since we took a holiday, since we shut down for the holidays, coming back in January and February. And I'm gonna need y'all to be out there. We are doing a whole lot more than just talking at that meeting. We are putting things together. We are connecting as business people and even people that aren't in business that want to come out and see who's in business and how we can support each other. However, listen, my business is on and popping. All right. And if I feel like coming out for the meetings is not something that you really, are interested in doing, we won't do it. So you got to come out to support it if you want it to continue. And with that, we're going to leave you with What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. And that is one of Lucretia's favorite songs. Again, I just want to thank her for being my special guest. What an awesome conversation. And until I see you next time, I love you. I love you. I love you. And there is just absolutely nothing you can do about it. This is your girl, Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama, by way of Little Old Glassboro, New Jersey, right here on BlackSitRadio.com.